When I was in middle school, I was assigned to be in this counseling group at my school called Men's Group. It met in the counseling center once a week during lunch and once a month in the Dean's Lounge during lunch. Here's my story regarding Men's Group. I've always had other friends who aren't in Men's Group. In the beginning of 6th grade, I was given a pass from my guidance counselor to attend Men's Group. I was assigned to be in Men's Group. It was held in the counseling center once a week during lunch. I went there during lunch. I found it unique on making friends. There were some folks I met in Men's Group. Later on, near the end of 6th grade, despite the fact I have other friends who aren't in Men's Group, my parents made me and wanted me to throw a Men's Group only gathering that only included folks from the Men's Group. I threw one. The summer before I started 7th grade, another Men's Group folk threw a Men's Group only gathering. Later on in 7th grade, 4 more students threw a Men's Group only gathering. In fact, the student who threw a Men's Group gathering this summer threw another one in the school year. The summer before I started 8th grade, despite the fact I already threw a Men's Group only gathering, despite the fact I have other friends who aren't in Men's Group, my parents made me and wanted me to throw a gathering that only included folks from the Men's Group. Although I was a little skeptical about throwing one, I threw one. Men's Group only gatherings kept me in a bubble by making me feel like a lot more associated with the Men's Group folks. It created so much isolation because I'm not that friends with all of the folks in the Men's Group, and I have a lot of other friends who I feel like I'm more closer to than some of the folks in the Men's Group. Getting a girlfriend was hard enough for me since I didn't know what it meant for a couple to be with one another, but the Men's Group only gatherings that kept me in a bubble only made it harder. It was hard enough for me getting invited to a party, but the Men's Group only gatherings that kept me in a bubble only made it harder. It started going to the south middle of 8th grade when I officially started hating the Men's Group only gatherings. I at first blamed it on the Men's Group itself, believing the Men's Group was responsible for keeping me in a bubble, even though it was the gatherings that were responsible. I had no idea that there were other reasons for Men's Group, such as talking about your problems. I at first thought it was for making friends. My parents even offered me to throw an end-of-the-year Men's Group only gathering, and I refused. There are 3 reasons why the Men's Group only gatherings kept me in a bubble. They're not parties. The only thing what makes it a party is inviting all of your friends. Inviting only those from a group you were assigned to be in doesn't make it a party. It wasn't my idea to throw a Men's Group only gathering. It was my parents' idea. They made me throw one. Never was it ever my idea. The Men's Group only gatherings are the only gatherings my parents made me throw. They didn't make me throw any other gatherings. They made me throw a Men's Group only gathering twice. Once freshman year of high school started, concert choir couldn't fit into my schedule because Learning Center had to meet every day. Like Men's Group, Learning Center is required in a student's individualized education plan. In addition to that, I was also assigned to be in all collaborative classes. Collaborative classes was a class with 2 teachers for the class. Collaborative classes were extremely limited from having a certain teacher for a class. Collaborative classes had mostly Learning Center students in every class, which is basically the same kids in other classes. Men's Group gatherings can not only happen in middle school, they can also happen in high school too. Men's Group bubble was way worse in high school than it was in middle school. Unlike high school, where I was in all collaborative classes, middle school we had crews. Each crew had a variety of students from Learning Center and non-Learning Center. Some Learning Center students were in my crew and some were not in my crew. Unlike high school, where I couldn't take choir, middle school I was in band and chorus all 3 years. Band and chorus had a variety of folks from Learning Center and non-Learning Center. Some Learning Center students were in band and chorus and some were not. Attending a men's group only gathering is not part of a student's grade. Neither is throwing a men's group only gathering. Your grades won't drop if you don't throw a men's group only gathering, nor if you don't attend one. Attending your academic class is part of a student's grade. If you cut your academic class and instead go to another class or the elective you wanted to take, then your grades will drop and you won't get credit for attending the alternative class. It was especially hard since freshman year of high school, we had an 8-period daily schedule where students would choose between a class and a lunch. Because of all that, the men's group only gatherings keeping me in a bubble wasn't addressed at all. A lot of troubles have happened because of that. Due to me developing more emotions in high school, I became uninterested in finding a girl to be with. Getting choir, getting band, and being in a class with a variety of students from Learning Center and non-Learning Center are things I want much more than to be in a relationship with someone. I still didn't know what it meant for a couple to be with one another because of that. When finding someone for you to end up with, you want to be with someone who has common interests as you. The best way to find that person is consider someone who's involved in the same electives as you. Learning Center is not a class to find your path. It's an individualized education plan. In high school, lots of students tend to get a little picky when finding someone to be with. The best thing to do about that is to be yourself. Learning Center, unfortunately, isn't a class to be yourself, as it's an individualized education plan required class. When finding someone to be with, you want to be with someone who is able to comfort you and support you. Best person to consider is someone who's associated with your friends. It's really hard to make new friends if you're in all collaborative classes because it's the same students in every class every year. Because of all this and not knowing what it meant for a couple to be with one another, all the girls I asked out in middle school and got rejected from have been unable to see me who I really am. They were never able to realize that this constant asking them out only occurred because I didn't know what it meant for a couple to be with one another. People never invited me to their parties whenever they threw one at all. I've been having a really hard time trying to figure out how many friends from high school because of that. Summer has been unpleasant now, especially 2023, which has been the worst summer ever. 5% of the worst summer ever and 30% of the unpleasant summer has been because I don't know how many close friends from high school I have because of that. Because of this, during my first year of college, I had to learn the hard way what it meant for a couple to be with one another.